That is an impressive dude, is he not, Dave?
He is indeed.
Yeah, and we're going to
globetrotter too.
We're going to be getting Mike King on a whole lot more. By the way, speaking of impressive dudettes, we got a dude, so now let's get a dudette in here. Brad, would you care to do the honors of saying good morning to Jami Jones?
Oh, one of the OGs. Good morning, Jami. How are you today?
Hey, Jami.
Mr. Bentley in the house.
So, guys, in case you didn't know, Brad Bentley, president of Fastport, and Martin Garci, who I call the center of all things, the fulcrum of the National Association of Publicly Funded Truck Driving Schools, NAPFTDS, both join us in studio. Martin, it's your first time in here, isn't it?
It is. Excited to be here today and get to see the studio finally.
It's a really cool place. Jami, when are you coming down to see the studio?
I need to get that done. It's on my bucket list. I just don't need to wait until I'm old.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's more important to get down here. The studio is one thing, but the neighborhood's even better, to be honest with you. We got so many great restaurants and bars and coffee. What is it, 5 coffee shops, Dave, within like...
5 coffee shops within walking distance.
Within walking
We stopped
distance.
at one on the way.
Which one did you stop at?
We just hit CC's.
By the way,
traffic.
there's
I
a
like the flagpole, but we went to CC's.
I got to tell you, though, with the CC's down here, Jami, and by the way, speaking of international trade, if you ever walked into the CC's, it's like an international trade center.
Yeah.
I mean, every single color, every single complexion, every single language that is spoken or lived or breathed in the city of New Orleans and beyond is actually in that CC's. Really groovy. Jami, I wanted to kind of give people a sense of something really cool coming our way. You and I are working on a project for this platform, for RadioNemo, and I wanted you to kind of unpack it a little bit, and then we'll talk about what's going on in the news.
Well, we are going to start delivering news at the top of the hour for you guys. It's not going to be your Walter Cronkite reading the headlines kind of news either. We're going to lean into authentic landline with a little bit of edge, a little bit of fun, but make sure that you know the top headlines for the day that you need to know as listeners. So it's something I'm really excited about. You're going to get to meet some more of the team. Tyson Fisher, the associate editor who's been on some, is going to be key in this, and so is Ryan Witkowski, who has a very strong and long radio career, so that we're going to put his core talents back to use. So we're just pretty excited about being able to partner up more, and, you know, good or bad, you know, no news is not good news, so we're going to make sure you know at least the bare minimum of what you need to know.
Every hour on the hour from the second hour on, we will actually have landline news. I'm calling it the Landline Login for now, but who knows? We might change. We got plenty of stuff to figure out and plenty of time to do it. In terms of we have 3 or 4 days to figure this out. We'll get it all down. Speaking of the news, what is going on? What should we be focused on right now?
You know, so much of any action with the shutdown, there's just not a ton going on in DC in the way of, you know, bills actually moving through, but we are seeing a lot of introductions of bills with English language proficiency and non-domiciled issues being tackled. And I know it's easy to get fatigued over this stuff, and there's so many of these bills that, you know, eventually what's going to happen is they're going to have to caucus up and actually figure out what version they want to put forward in a highway bill. Because if we can get the shutdown ended and Congress fully back to work, that should be the first order of business that we're going to be watching for is actually just a highway bill, and making sure that so many of these pro-trucker initiatives that we've been seeing from Sean Duffy and Derek Bars is now in the House as FMCSA administrator. So there's a lot of buzz. We kind of need this shutdown to end so we can get back to real work.
One of the questions that I'm not the only one asking this, Jami, so I'm going to ask you: is there a count in terms of how many trucking, let's call them trucking reform bills, if you will, you know, the language thing and all of that stuff. How many bills are out there right now? I mean, is it almost like a half a dozen of them?
It's more than that.
More than that,
I have a
okay.
document. Well, and I had a document that was sent to me on Thursday, and it's kind of been a weekend. There was a lot of football and other stuff to do. But it is something that the OOIDA Government Affairs team is definitely staying on top of, because there is so much, and we need to be able to evaluate because with legislative language, is it actually going to do what you want it to do? Or is this just a well-meaning piece of legislation that, they're not quite getting the whole issue just yet?
What you mean, like wanting to help drivers who can't seem to get a CDL from one state be able to go someplace else, only to learn later on that it opens the door for a whole bunch of people who shouldn't have CDLs to get them? You mean something like that?
Yeah, the whole non-domiciled that started out to help students from one state license in another open the door unintentionally to the situation we're facing today. So we need reforms. We need true enforcement. I'm tickled that we are hearing more and more about better driver training. That's always nice to have that one, and that's coming from truckers. So, just to know that professional drivers are saying there's not enough training going on before they're getting turned loose on the road.
Man, Jami, you were playing music to Martin Garcia's ears.
I was about to say, Martin Garcia is
Absolutely.
sitting right here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and we need the quality stuff, not the 24-hour, 2-week where they barely get in a truck. We're talking robust training, like, actual time behind the wheel.
Yeah, like the
Absolutely.
like the kind that the National Association of Publicly Funded Truck Driving Schools is actually. I have to tell you, we've had more segments now, Jami, with people like Martin, people like Andy, people like Donnie. We have had more. We have our own segment education station, but we literally have been inundated, and we could keep having this conversation for a long time. I wanted to pivot to Martin just for a second. Martin, what is the basic foundation here? Because Jami's right. We need the level of training that you guys have come to expect and that you demand from your members. So what does that look like? How do we get this right?
Well, go back to 2015 when we did negotiated rulemaking for an entry-level driver training, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of that. And what we set out to do was to have a baseline across the country where everybody would do the same training per se and meet the proficiency standards. And we laid out what we thought was a very good curriculum. But somewhere along the way, there was a few things taken out, and we could argue that for a long time. But the part that when Federal Motor Carrier rolled it out in 22, they didn't have an enforcement arm in place. And so up until about 2 weeks ago, there was very little enforcement. Now, if you look on the website, you'll see several thousand people that's pending removal. And so they're stepping up the game now. But we're 3 years into it, and it just exploded with all kinds of people going into training that we never thought of. I live in Houston, Texas, and it went from about 5 or 6 schools to about 35 schools, and so we see them around us each day. And they're 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or just the testing. And some of them boldly state, "We will teach you the test." And that's it.
Jami, you guys over there, not just at Landline, but at the other people, our other friends in Grain Valley that you guys work so closely with, it just must send you guys into apoplexy. We will teach you the test. How do you feel about that?
It's just ridiculous. That you might, it's just like having an open book test. And this is too important of a situation. And this isn't just that you have to be book smart about driving. We need that time behind the wheel where they're getting familiar with, things that can go wrong, things that, with heavy grades and all of those other things. The Colorado crash a few years ago, that poor guy had been driving in Texas, and they sent him off to Colorado. He probably had never been on a mountain like that in a truck in his life. So it's things like that the companies are ambivalent to it. It just, I don't know. It's just really kind of sad, but we need organizations like all of ours to come together. OOIDA was part of that negotiated rulemaking as well. I covered
Yes.
all those sessions, and it was unbelievable to see the consensus with safety groups, trucking groups, schools saying we have to have this. And there was one lone arm that poked up and said, do we? And I'll give you one guess at who that was. And PTA got their way.
No habla inglés. No habla English language proficiency. No habla inglés. Martin, we're at the point now where I feel like that voice might have finally been silenced because we're now having the discussion again. Watch me send Jamie in a real apoplexy where the other dead zombie has come up. We need more 18-year-olds behind the wheel. That one has come up now. And by the way, I am not against that. But I think that the exceptions prove the rule, to be honest with you, that you guys are in big favor of this too. Let's make it happen, but let's make it really stringent. Let's make sure that it's happening to get a new generation of drivers and not to get more meat in the seat, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you see it in in-state driving, and there's some data out there. It's not a lot, but where, the proper training and just like was brought up, not only from the school, but from the trucking company to continue that training. And that's so vitally important.
But they don't. That's the problem. And it goes back, that's the thing. And that's what drives a lot of people crazy, Martin. It goes back to exactly what you guys were talking about, because one of the most encouraging things about this discussion, Dave, has been, and it's been thrilling, nobody's blaming the drivers anymore. Nobody's blaming the people who make the mistakes. Like you heard Jami talk about the guy on the 70, which was terrible. He killed people. Mm-hmm. But everybody gets now, this is about bad schools and bad companies. Bad schools handing bad drivers off to bad companies and bad actors. And you guys want to set an accreditation level and say, if you don't have this stuff, you can't be in the game, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's important that, and even go back to a while ago when you said that, first thing I thought about was a truck that I see quite often that's, quote, training drivers, and it's a 30-foot pup with a day cab. with a 5-speed automatic.
Yeah, that's real.
And there's no restriction then put on that. Well, maybe the automatic, but then you stick him in a 53-foot trailer, sleeper, whatever, with no additional training, and it's just it's very. I'm looking at buying new trucks for the school, and so I'm going back to the same thing: a sleeper truck with a 53-foot trailer, because that's what most people are going to be driving.
That's it right there. Jami, you get the last word before we run out of time here. What you got?
And to the point on the 18 to 21-year-olds, I know kids that grew up on the farm, myself included, who could drive anything they were thrown in because we were thrown in them at a wildly young age on the farm. But that's why when it comes down to skills testing, the skills testing has to be equally robust and difficult to make sure that they are equipped to get out there on the traffic and dodge the crazy people who hate driving around big trucks. So,
all right, real quick.
There's a lot to it.
Real quick, Brad, when was the first time you drove a car? How old? Not legally. First time you drove?
12, probably.
Martin, what about you?
10 or 11.
Dave?
13.
And, of course, Jami, when's the first time you drove?
Probably about the same, about 11 or 12.
Dre.
I could reach the pedals.
Dre was driving at 6, by the way. I got keys thrown at me when I was 11 and told to go pick up snowballs down the block. Never been so terrified in my life. Almost hit a chain link fence. Didn't, though. Got back in one piece. Jami Jones is the managing editor of Landline. She's been doing this thing as long as the FMCSA has been around. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon.